Now we come to this extraordinary man, Akhenaten. His dates are 1377 to 1358, the dates of his reign. Akhenaten is he was a strange man. There was some kind of mysterious disease that I don't know how to define, but perhaps somebody else would know what it was. He's said to have been the first monotheist. That's wrong. I regard him as the first Protestant. He rejects the ceremonialism, the ritualism, and so forth of the Theban priesthood, which had gained enormous wealth, by the way, as priesthoods always do, as long as they survive. The gifts come to them and so forth, and it's a rich power. He rejects the priestly orders of Thebes and founds a city of his own, Amarna, in the desert. And there's the very brief period of those dates that I've just named of the Amarna time. His idea was that the deity should not be imaged, and he presents as the symbol of deity the solar disk. And instead of Amun, who is the Lord Creator of the Theban system, he calls the deity Aton, A-T-O-N, which actually is the reanimation of a much earlier notion. But it was Freud who had the suggestion in his Moses and Monotheism that Moses had been an officer in the court of Akhenaten, that it was probably one of Akhenaten's daughters who had pulled Moses out of the water in the little basket of rushes, and that with the collapse of Akhenaten's court in Amarna, because when he died the whole thing was wiped out, then Moses, who was a believing minister in the court, had picked up a group of working people in the Delta area and left Egypt with them to continue this monotheistic cult. But the difference between Akhenaten's so-called monotheism and that of Moses is that Akhenaten saw this mystery represented in the solar disk as informing all the gods and mythologies of the whole Near East. You are the one who appears as so-and-so here, so-and-so there. Whereas the Yahvist monotheism says there is no other god in the world. And I do not inform those. They are devils. So this is a total distinction which has to be recognized if you're going to understand what's going on. This is this very handsome representation of Akhenaten in the Cairo Museum. And you see here the symbols of his lordship. Here is the good shepherd, the shepherd's crook, who guards and guides his flock. And here is the winnowing fan for thrashing wheat, separating the chaff from the seed. This is the discipline and this the protection, the two aspects of rule. The God of mercy and the God of justice. There's his beautiful queen, Nefertiti. Now, almost every woman I know who believes in reincarnation thinks she was Nefertiti at one time. I was actually in Egypt with one of those ladies, and when we were in Karnak, she looked around and said, "Oh, so familiar." That's the beautiful head, the famous one in the museum at Berlin. And here's the dear little family, Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and their three beautiful daughters with their artificially deformed heads. And this is the solar disk of Aton with its rays of blessing, each ray terminating in a hand of blessing this dear little family. We'll have family prayer now, and God will come to us. Here is the Tutankhamun. Now, Akhenaten had no sons, only these three lovely little daughters, and here's one of his daughters, and the young prince whom she married, who is called Tutankhamun. That is to say, as soon as Akhenaten died, the Amun priesthood took over again, and the young pharaoh was again of the Amun cult. However, we have the solar disk, which continues, and the hands of blessing. And now I come to something very interesting.